And just wanted to let you know I will be recording the session, although I can share with you ladies listening live that the people who get the recording won't see me on the screen on the webcam. They'll just be able to see the slides. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and just before I do, I also want to welcome Juliana, who's joining from John Deere in Brazil, all the way from Brazil. Hello and welcome, and thanks for being here. So ladies, with that, we will go right ahead and get started. And so just to briefly introduce myself, I know we met last week at the SWE conference, but just to refresh you, I'm Jo Miller. I am the CEO with Women's Leadership Coaching, and for over 15 years now, it's been my personal mission and passion, and also my company's mission to help women advance themselves into management and leadership positions in business. So I do that with workshops like the one you may have seen at the SWE conference with my mega session last week. I also deliver webinars and travel a lot, mostly nationally, but sometimes internationally, speaking for women's conferences and to women's corporate networks as well. So that's just a little about me. You might be wondering, where's the accent from? So just a little additional piece about my background. I grew up in Australia and then moved to California, lived in the Silicon Valley area in California for 10 years. So the accent you hear today is Australifornian. And then I moved to Iowa, so who knows, maybe give me a few more years and the accent will be Australiforni Iowan. Who knows? We'll see. But I do consider myself to be the only Australian women's leadership coach living in Iowa. So if you think about that, those are some fairly unique qualifications. But without further ado, wanted to dive in and get started with a concept that really forms the foundation for everything that I'll cover today in this webinar. And it really is the answer to a question that I found myself getting answered with increasing frequency over the years, which is, what's the greatest roadblock that we face as women when we want to advance and go to the next level in our career? And so after many, many conversations and many time thinking on this and discussing it with others, I've come to believe that it's this. So the greatest roadblock that you will most likely face in your career is one that you'll hit at a time when you least expect it, because you're doing great and you're going above and beyond to deliver more than is required of you in your job description and role. So you're kicking butt and your company knows it, and you're delivering great value to the organization and the team that you're a part of. But for some reason, you just can't seem to get recognized as someone who's ready to go to the next level and take on a bigger, more responsible role or broader scoped assignment, or even that promotion. And here I think is the number one reason why. Maybe you can relate. It's because you can't get that higher level job without leadership experience. But of course, as you probably know, by this time in your career, it's really hard to get that leadership experience without the job. And so if you aspire to climb into a more senior level role or make a bigger difference, bigger impact than the job you're in today, you really can't afford to wait. So do not wait for permission or an invitation to become a leader. And definitely don't wait for someone to come hand you a promotion. And frankly, if your career plan is to wait for that to happen, you might actually need to plan on waiting a long time. So don't wait for permission to be a leader. Don't wait for a promotion, but rather you need to be in the driver's seat and drive your career forward. So you need to take charge of your career trajectory. And in today's session, I'll talk about some specific things you can do with regards to getting promoted into the next level role. I also just wanted to share, I was speaking with a female engineer a few years ago, a woman who was working in a big global software company. And she said this to me. She said, I feel like I am the best kept secret in my organization. And maybe you can relate. You know, maybe there's been a moment in time in your career where you felt like you were the best kept secret. If so, take a look at the webinar control panel and just see if there's a little hand icon there. I want you to raise your hand. So go ahead and click the icon to raise your hand if you ever at any time in your career have felt like you were the best kept secret. So maybe it's something you can relate to. But back to my story, and thanks Dana, looks like Dana can relate. She's felt like that best kept secret at some point in her career. But back to my story. So this is a woman who had come out of college and entered the workforce having done exceedingly well in college. And she had been one of the top students in her undergraduate degree. She had also been one of the top students in her master's program. And yet, after having been hired into this big global program in a very high-profile, high-potential rotation track, she found after about 5 or 6 years that her progress had slowed, and she found herself working in a team and with a group and for a product that was not really a great fit for her, and her progress started to slow. And when I spoke with her, she said, not only do I feel like I'm the best kept secret in the organization, I feel like I have a level of qualifications and background and experience that are up at a really high, very sophisticated level, and yet for some reason everyone around me in this team, my peers and my management, perceive me as somewhat less. So there was a gap between what she brought to the table and how everyone else perceived her. And sadly, unfortunately, until she found ways to close that gap in perception, she wasn't going to get invited into her next level in her career. So she wasn't going to get that bigger, more responsible assignment or even that promotion that she knew she was ready for. But close the gap she did using some of the skills and techniques that I'll cover in the webinar today, and ultimately did advance into the role where she feels like she is fully utilized and she's taking advantage now of the full sum total of all her potential, all her background, and all of her experience. So for you, if you've ever felt like the best kept secret in your organization, this webinar is for you. So think about whether you are personally capable of more than the job you're doing today. And if so, in this program, I'm going to talk about 6 things that may be of interest to you to know to help you navigate and advance in your career. And before I go any further, I'm just curious what your status is in terms of perhaps the last time that you personally have asked for a promotion. So I've just loaded up a poll. I'm going to launch that right now because I'm curious for you personally, when was the last time that you might have asked for a promotion? So if you don't mind, go ahead and click on the answer there that best fits your situation. Have you asked for a promotion in the last month? Or have you asked for a promotion in the last year? Next answer, it's been more than a year. Or perhaps you've never been one to be brave and boldly ask for a promotion. So go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, and finalize your answer and let us know when was the last time that you personally have asked for a promotion. And as soon as I see as everyone has put all their answers in, I'm going to close out the poll and then do my best here to go share the results. Here we go. So just sharing the results. And so not surprisingly, by far the most popular answer, so 60% of the women on our program, on our webinar today, have never asked for a promotion. So I just want to say thank you for being here today and hopefully taking away some steps that you can take to take action on to get the courage and boldly go knock on the boss's door and go ask for that next promotion. To those of you who asked for a promotion in the last year and in the last month, congratulations. Some of what we cover today in this program will be old news to you, but maybe there will be a couple additional tips or tricks that you can take away in order to prepare for the next time, because I'm sure there will be a next time when you go knock on the boss's door and put your case to ask for and hopefully be successful receiving that next promotion for yourself. So with that, let's dive into the first of the 6 things that I want you to know about what it really takes to succeed when you go ask for that next promotion. And the first thing I want to share with you is some information about who gets promoted. So think about that. You know, there is one quality by far that people who've gotten a promotion have in common. Maybe you know what it is, but let me share with you that Accenture did a survey in 2011 where they spoke to over 3,400 executives, and they asked those executives, have you asked for a raise or a promotion or a job change within the last year? Now, 37% of them said, yes, we've asked for one of those 3 things, the raise, the promotion, or a job change. Here's the really interesting piece. 65% of those who asked said it helped. Okay, so think about that. People who asked for a raise, a promotion, or a job change were far more likely to report that it had helped. So here's some additional data that I took away from the survey that you might find interesting. When people asked for a promotion, there was a number of different outcomes, of course, as you would expect. Interestingly enough, 10% of the time, nothing happened. And we kind of would expect that that might be the case. You know, that there would be a certain percentage of people who asked for a promotion and found nothing at all happened. Check out the next response. The next 5% of people who asked, unfortunately, didn't get a promotion. They got new responsibilities instead. So, unfortunately for them, they got more than what they were bargaining for. But I wanted you to know that that was a possible outcome here. But here's where it gets interesting. 10% of those who asked got a new role. It wasn't the one they asked for, but it was not a promotion, but they still got something different. You know, things started to move, if not upward, maybe laterally in their career. But check this out. 42% of people who asked for a promotion got the role that they asked for. Oh, and believe me, it gets better. 17% got a new role that was actually better than they had hoped for. Now, don't add up the numbers. They don't add up to 100%, and I'm actually not clear on why that's the case, but here's the bottom line that I take away from the survey. 59% of people who asked for a promotion got one. They either got the role they asked for or they got one that was even better. So what I want you to take away from this, this example, this survey, is that people who ask for a promotion are far more likely to get one. In fact, 60% of those who asked were able to secure a promotion or something even better. Now, when we talk about women in the professional workforce, it gets even more interesting because LinkedIn did a survey last year in 2013 where they talked to over 954 professional women. Now, of those 954, a little like our example, our survey earlier, only 25% had asked for a promotion in, I think, what was the previous year. So it kind of resonates with our experience here with our audience today in the webinar. However, check this out. 75% of those women who asked for a promotion got one. All right, let that sink in for a moment. Only 25% of those surveyed had asked, but 75% of those who asked actually got what they were asking for. So, what is the simplest way to get a promotion? Well, hopefully you all resoundingly are able to say right now, it's to ask for one. People who ask for promotions, and women especially, are far more likely to receive them than those that don't. So if there's one thing you take away from the webinar today, hopefully it's that. It's that those who ask for these things are far more likely to get them. And I'll just ask the two of you who said in our poll earlier that you'd asked for a promotion. One had done so in the last month. One had done so in the last year. Could I just invite you to open up the bar marked questions on the webinar control panel? Just send me a note. Let me know what the outcome was. I'm interested to hear if your personal experience resonated with the results of the surveys that I've just shown. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, and I look forward to hearing your answer, let's move on to the second of the 6 things that I would like to share. Number 2 of the 6 secrets of women who get promoted. So number 2 is called don't underestimate your readiness. So don't underestimate your readiness. So think about this for a moment. On a scale of 1 to 10, how capable are you right now today? If they were to come hand you a promotion to the next level, so on a scale of 1 to 10, pick a number. How capable would you be right now of performing that job immediately? So imagine that next level role that you're thinking about going after. Imagine they just came and handed it to you. How prepared, how capable, how ready are you in this moment to just go do it? And when you know what that number is, please go ahead and open up the bar marked questions and send me a note. Let me know on that scale of 1 to 10 how ready you are. And by the way, I had asked those who'd recently asked for a promotion to tell us the result, and Dana has shared she doesn't know yet, but we've got our fingers crossed for her because she is going to find out after the interview next week. So Dana, go knock 'em dead. And hopefully with some of the information we share today, you might be even just a little more prepared to go for it. But again, ladies, tell us that number on a scale of 1 to 8. Dana has shared that her number is 8, so she's on a scale of 1 to 10, she is 8 out of 10 ready, 80% ready to go for that next level role. And not surprisingly, you've asked for it and you're going for the interview. If you've not yet sent in your number, please go ahead and do so. I'd love to hear how ready you feel you are. So here's the tough news about that readiness number. And this comes back to an internal study that was done at Hewlett-Packard, where they found that women will go apply for a job when they believe that they meet 100% of the requirements. So, as women, we tend to wait until we're 100% ready before we go throw our hat in the ring. But check out the comparison with our male colleagues. Men tend to apply when they think they meet just 60% of the requirements. So think about that for a moment, and I'll share a very real consequence of the gap in those numbers. So I was delivering a workshop, a similar workshop, that was followed by a panel of executive women leaders recently in Seattle. And one of the women on the panel shared the story that she had recently, after about a year in her new role, gotten the courage to go say to her boss, "I would like to have your role one day." And her boss was thrilled that she said that, but he said, "Look, I got to share with you, all of your 5 male colleagues came to me a year ago and said that." So notice the consequences of our waiting until we feel like we're 100% ready when male colleagues are going for it, making the ask, throwing the hat in the ring, going after that promotion when they meet just 60% of the requirements. So this is your competition. And if you play out this to its logical conclusion, what we start to see is men being promoted before they perhaps are fully ready. So we see the consequences in terms of the quality and caliber of people we see in leadership today. And we definitely see the consequences in terms of there being far fewer women being promoted up the ranks. Because as we know from our earlier discussion, people who ask for the promotion are far more likely to get those. So just think about whether you might be underestimating your readiness for that next role. If the number you had in your head was anything less than a 6, well, it's time for you to wait a little longer. But if you were 60% or more ready for that next role, you are more ready than you know, and it's time for you to start to think about going for it. So if you're 60% or more ready for that next job, it's time for you just to have at it, to go for it, to throw your hat in the ring. So don't underestimate your readiness. Okay, ready for number 3 here? Oh, and I'll just backtrack and share that Dana shared she was an 8 on the scale. Crystal was a 6. So by that number, by that accounting, I say Dana and Crystal, go for it. And I'm guessing most of the rest of you listening in who didn't plug in your number are somewhere similar on that scale. So ladies, don't underestimate your readiness. It's time to go for it and throw your hat in the ring. All right, with that, are you ready for number 3? Here it comes. Number 3 of our 6 secrets of women who get promoted is to know that timing truly is everything. So timing is everything. And on the next slide, I'm going to share with you a quote from Danelle Green, who is BlackRock's head of talent management. And I actually interviewed her on another webinar about a year ago. And she pointed out that when it comes to asking for a promotion, the right conversation can be held at the wrong time. For example, when your boss is in a bad mood, or when the person you're talking to is the wrong person. She went on to say, it doesn't matter how good your request is if you do it at the wrong time, because timing, as they say, is truly everything. So timing really is everything when it comes to asking for that promotion. So if you are 60% or more ready for the next role, and now that you know that those who ask for promotions are far more likely to get them, the next thing to think about is the timing. A couple aspects I want you to consider. Number 1, consider the corporate culture where you work and whether people tend to get promoted when they ask for it, or is it the type of place where you've got to pay your dues and put in your time, in which you plan ahead to demonstrate your readiness, knowing that that promotion time will come around? Or is there a very well-defined process? So at Google, for example, you need to self-nominate within a certain time frame, so you better be working ahead of time, at least a couple months in advance, to prepare your package, to check in with your manager to see whether you meet the requirements, but also to give yourself that pep talk to throw your hat in the ring. So it's really important that you consider the corporate culture where you work and any of the processes that might be known. And if you don't know what those are, ask your HR business partner, or even better, ask someone you know who's recently got promoted, perhaps even someone who's been promoted multiple times, and just say, I'm trying to understand the promotion culture here at this company, and when is the wrong time and when is the right timing to ask. And what you'll find is that if you ask nicely, and if you've built trust with those individuals, you'll probably be able to get a fairly straight answer. So for now, your homework is to consider when is the wrong time to ask for a promotion. And for example, it might be after, the raises and promotions have just been handed out, and it's the close of the financial year, and everyone's really busy with their head down, meeting their numbers and their targets. That might actually be the wrong time to ask. But then also ask yourself within the corporate culture that you're part of, when is exactly the right time to ask, so you can look ahead of the game and plan accordingly and start to get yourself in the pipeline for that promotion. So if you've had any aha moments or observations about timing being anything and when is the right and the wrong time to ask, I invite you to share your insight by opening up the questions bar, typing in a note, and I'll share your observation with the group, because we'd love to hear what you're discovering about when is the wrong time and when is the right time to go ask for a promotion. So in our 6 secrets of women who get promoted, number 3 is to remember that timing is everything, and to be really mindful of the right time and the wrong time, and when is really ideal within the corporate culture that you're a part of. So with that, moving on now to number 4 of our 6 secrets of women who get promoted. Now let's shift to how to go make it happen. So how to make your request, because there are, as with timing, there are some right ways and some wrong ways to go make your request. And I want to share with you a story that I heard a number of years ago that has really stuck with me, and it was about a woman who had just gotten promoted to a senior manager. And she was really thrilled, really excited. And so she went to her HR partner not long after, and she thanked her for the promotion. And she said, here's what she said. She said, thank you for my promotion to senior manager. I'm also interested in becoming a principal one day. And by the way, that was the next level of promotion in her organization. So I'm interested in becoming a principal. What are the requirements? Now, the HR partner thought about it for a moment and said, well, it takes 2 years. So the woman thanked the HR partner, went back to her desk, and then thought about it for a moment and said, now, wait a minute. And she went back and knocked on the HR partner's door, was invited in, and said, tell me what specific criteria would I need to achieve within those 2 years in order to be promoted to principal? And the HR partner kind of scratched her head like she'd never heard such a request before. But after a moment or two was able to articulate the very specific requirements that it would take for this woman to be promoted to principal. And do you know, she went away, she achieved them in 1 year, and now is in the role of principal. So here are the keys. You need to know the requirements so that you can go meet them, possibly in record time, like the woman in the case study that I just shared. So once you know the requirements and you've met them by over 60%, it's time for you to make the next step. So the next step here is to go make your request. Here's how you do it. So you will go to whoever is the person that's empowered to grant you the promotion, be it, in most cases, your manager or your senior leader, or sometimes this goes through your HR partner, but this happens after you've completed a really thorough understanding of those requirements. And you're able to go to that person and say, I understand that the role requires A, B, C. And you want to list very concisely, very clearly, A, B, C being the top 3 main requirements of the role that you intend to go for. So that's the first point. And you want to observe the person closely to make sure that they're nodding in agreement that, yes, these are indeed the requirements of that role. And by the way, Dana, this works terrifically in a job interview for a next level role, and is actually a great thing to say right at the close of the interview. It's a great closing sequence to use to let them know that you believe you're the ideal person for the job. All right, so the first thing you say is, I understand the role requires A, B, C, and you list those top 3 requirements. Now, here's where you want to be a little bold. And with just a bit of a smile on your face, like you know you're being a little bold, a little cheeky, you want to lean it a little closer and say, I believe I'm the ideal person for the role because X, Y, Z. And what you want to do here is make sure that X, Y, Z the answers to your ABC. So you understand the role requires ABC, the 3 top requirements, and you want to show that you bring XYZ, so it's just kind of this perfect fit, this perfect match. So you, in a very concise, very clear way, have showed that you are the person who is the ideal match for the role. Okay? Now, what you'll hear in many negotiation classes is now it's time to go silent. And what you want to do at this point is to observe the person very closely and check for their agreement. And if you sense that they agree, then you come out with your closing question, which is to say, what are our next steps to move forward? All right, so this is your closing sequence. It's a great one to ask when you go knock on the boss's door to ask for a promotion, or when you're interviewing for that next level job and you've had a great interview, you've taken time to understand their top 3 requirements, and then you can clearly articulate right at the close of the interview the 3 reasons why you believe you are the ideal fit, the best candidate. Check for their agreement. If the agreement is there, say, what are our next steps to move forward? Now, if you sense there's any hesitation, here's a different question to ask. So if you sense there's any hesitation that you might not be that best fit, of course you want to probe and ask questions and gain greater understanding of where the mismatch might be. So here's what you can say. This is also a great closing question. You'll say, is there any additional information you need in order for me to be considered as the ideal person for the position? Now, again, it's fairly bold. You want to have just a little grin on your face, like you know you're being a little bold, but professional and polite and courteous at the same time. Now, one of 2 things will occur. Either they'll smile and nod in agreement and say, it's okay, you're the ideal person for the job, in which case you can thank them and talk about next steps. Or they might say that there's some hesitation. And so you can probe and ask more questions to find out what the mismatch, what the hesitation might be, and hopefully come back with some additional data to show why you can overcome those objections and be the ideal person for the job. So again, I'll go over this again one more time because it's so critical. You want to close the conversation with, I understand the role requires ABC, and I believe I'm the ideal candidate because XYZ, and check for their agreement that there's a fit. If there's agreement, you suggest talking about next steps to move forward. If you sense there's not agreement, there's hesitation, ask that question about whether there's any more information they need to consider you the ideal person for the position. And by the way, even if it ends up being a no, you've thrown your hat in the ring, you've shown that you're interested, that you consider yourself a contender. So they may not give you the role this time, but they will walk away knowing that you have ambition to advance, and they'll have a better sense of the roles you might be a good fit for in future. So even if you get a no, don't be discouraged. You've taken an enormous leap forward by having this conversation and throwing your hat in the ring. So good luck. I really wish you all the best of luck, especially Dana, who I know is going to have one of these conversations coming up very soon. So let's move on now to number 5 in our 6 secrets of women who get promoted. And coming in at number 5 is the importance of being judged by your potential, not your experience. So being judged by your potential, not your experience. Now, there was a study done recently where they found that several diversity officers and experts told them that despite their best efforts, women tend to be evaluated for promotions primarily on their performance. Okay, so their history, their background, their experience, performance, while men are often promoted on their potential. So here we have another one of the tough news elements in this webinar. Not only do we as women tend to wait until we're more than qualified to go for the role, we are evaluated differently than male peers because of that unconscious bias. Men get promoted based on their future potential and what people think they might be capable of doing, whereas we as women tend to be more likely to be promoted based on our track record. So it's one of the factors that holds us back, and that I encourage you to be mindful of when you go after this next promotion. Here are some things you can do to create a workaround. Now, the first is, and the McKinsey study that I shared, that quote from the previous slide, found that one of the workarounds is to make your accomplishments visible to your management. So don't be the best kept secret in the organization. And if you're achieving something that's noteworthy, Don't just achieve that, put your head down and go work on the next achievement. Take a moment to pause and step away from doing the work and go find a way to make your value visible to your management. For example, you might type up a note just reporting it on status of what's being achieved and CC it to your management. Or get yourself on the agenda to report in on status and talk about what's been accomplished. Or perhaps you'll write a little article for your organization's newsletter that talks about what's being achieved by yourself and also by your team. Whatever it is, you owe it to yourself to find some methods of promoting your achievements that feel comfortable and authentic to who you are, that are also recognized and rewarded within the team culture that you're a part of. So if you don't know what those are, observe who gets rewarded and recognized in your team, and notice how they make their value and their accomplishments visible to leadership, and see if you can try some of those methods. They might just work. The McKinsey survey also talked about the importance of enlisting the help of influential sponsors, so those senior leaders who speak up and advocate for you. So think about whether you have any senior leaders who are in your corner who are speaking up and advocating for you, because that can be a determining factor that can help you get promoted based on your potential as well as your track record and your past achievements. And then as you climb the corporate ladder, and this is definitely a longer term strategy, I really encourage you to do whatever you can to build a team culture where women's accomplishments are recognized right alongside those of male colleagues. That might mean creating a buddy system with your female colleagues where you speak up and advocate for each other, or talk up each other's accomplishments, or nominate each other for special promotions or special assignments or stretch projects, or nominate each other for awards. So build a corporate culture around you where women's achievements are noted and recognized just the way they are for male colleagues. So those are some of the workarounds you can do over time to be acknowledged for your potential as well as your background and your track record. So here again are some ways that you can work over time to overcome that bias. All right, so here we are at the end of the list, the 6 secrets of women who get promoted. And this is really a tip to help you prepare for your future when you may get promoted to manage former peers. So in my conversations with women and men who have been promoted, managing former peers is frequently cited as the toughest challenge of the newly promoted. And maybe it's something that's already on your mind. What if I get promoted and I am now the manager of people who were my former peers? So in my conversations with leaders and review of some literature on this topic, I've come up with 3 top suggestions for you to be prepared. So, the one thing starts, actually it's not on the list, but it starts today, and it is to already demonstrate the leadership qualities that you want to be known for after you get promoted, and that you can work on now. So think about whether you've built the trust and respect of your colleagues, and are you someone who they come to and look to for guidance and advice? If not, it's time for you to start to stand out as a leader among your peers and ask yourself on the daily basis, am I earning the trust and respect of my peers that would have them accept me in future as a leader if I was to get promoted? Now, when you do get promoted, have a conversation as early as possible after the promotion occurs to discuss what's changed with expectations, and let your peers know the role has changed. Here's what our roles will be going forward, and ask them what they expect from you now as their new manager, and also be very upfront with them about what you might expect to happen differently. And all the leaders I spoke to have said you want to have this conversation as early as possible in the promotion process so you can have that very transparent resetting of expectations after you become promoted to manage former peers. Next up, as you'll see, you need to quickly demonstrate authority so that they know that you fit in the role. So this, again, goes back to not being the best kept secret in the organization, but you need to fully step in and own that new job title and show your knowledge and competence. Now, one way of doing this is taking advantage of any management training that your company might have. Because if you're becoming a first-time manager, there's probably some terrific training or even online programs available to you. So take advantage of whatever opportunities you can to build up your management competence and clearly step in and own and demonstrate the authority of your new role. That might mean like working with your management or your corporate communications team to send out a notification of your new role and not hesitating to take the bigger office, the desk, you know, the corner window, whatever might go along with clearly demonstrating the authority of your new role, and embrace your new job title, get it printed on your business cards, put it on your email. So don't hesitate to fully step in and own the authority of your new role. And then finally, one special circumstance here is when you're promoted to manage former friends. And the sad news here, the tough news, is those friendships will almost always have to change. And here's where it's even more critical that you have a conversation to discuss what's changing in our workplace relationship and in our friendship, and do it as soon as possible after the promotion. So let your friend know that the roles have changed. Ask them what they see as being the difference going forward, and you may have to renegotiate the friendship. I'll be honest with you, there are friendships that survive and those that don't, but the ones that make it are the ones where people have an early and very open and honest and transparent conversation about what might have changed. So with that, hopefully you are all skilled up and ready. But I just want to share one quote here from a senior vice president in the retail industry who said, think about this before you are promoted, because what you do today will impact your career in the future. If you establish your character and integrity at the beginning of your career and remain consistent, well, people will be able to picture you in that next role. So how people see you after the promotion is very much determined by the behavior that you demonstrate today. So with that, there we have it, the 6 secrets of women who get promoted. Firstly, we talked about who gets promoted, and by and large, it's those that ask for it. The next secret was don't underestimate your readiness. And as a reminder, we as women tend to wait until we have 100% of the qualifications for the next role, whereas our male colleagues tend to go after it when they're just 60%. So if you're 60% or more ready to step into that next level role, go for it. You are more ready than you know. But also know that timing is everything. So understand when is the right time and the wrong time in your organization. And then finally, don't be afraid to make that request. Go after it. Firstly, ask what the requirements are, so you clearly understand and can articulate, I understand the job involves ABC, and I believe I'm the ideal candidate because XYZ. And if all sounds like it's good to go, go in for the close and say what are our next steps to move forward. And make sure you're being judged by potential, not your experience, by making your value visible and enlisting those senior level leaders as your advocates and sponsors. And then finally, be prepared to manage former peers by fully stepping in and owning the authority of the role as soon as you're promoted, and having conversations to reset expectations. And you also can't go wrong by demonstrating those leadership qualities starting today, so that it's a surprise for people when you get promoted into the role. So ladies, with that, those are the 6 secrets of women who get promoted. I'm going to open up to questions now and just check in to see if anyone has sent in a comment or question, or it just wants to share your own experience on this topic. So I'll come share those with you in just a moment. But I also wanted to open up the next poll to find out what it is that you might be taking away from this program today. In fact, what's the most important thing that you've learned? So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and just have you put your answers into our second poll here. So think about what's the most important thing you've learned from our time together in this webinar. Is it that people who ask for promotions are the ones most likely to get them? Is it that we as women tend to underestimate our readiness for the next role? Or is it that timing is everything, and to do your research and understand when is the right time and when is the wrong time? Or is it that you've learned how to go make the request Or finally, is it how to be judged by your potential and not your experience? So what is it that you've learned today that has proved most valuable for you? And we're just waiting for one or more two people to plug in your answer, so I will leave that open there for a moment. Dana has said that she would love the chance to have the face-to-face interaction during her interview next week, but sadly it will be by phone. Is there any advice when she can't be as cheeky as she'd like to be? Dana, I will just share with you that you have a terrific advantage when it's by phone in that you can have all your notes there in front of you. You can stand up. You can put a little mirror next to you so you can remember to smile. And remember that when you smile, something about that comes across in your voice. So when you smile and make that little cheeky face at yourself in the mirror, know that it's probably coming across in the tone of voice. And I would also encourage you to put a little smiley face, a little like the one I have next to my webcam today, to remind me to smile. So on your mirror, stick a little smiley face to remind you to smile so that that tone can come across in your face-to-face interview. But here's the best thing about doing this by telephone, not face-to-face. Print out the script for that closing sequence and hold yourself accountable to saying those words at some time during that phone interview. By the way, here's the little sticky note that I have on my webcam that reminds me to smile. Dana, I encourage you to stick a little post-it note next to the mirror that is next to your phone when you do your phone interview coming up. And I really encourage you to go knock them dead. So with that, as you can see, we had 50% of our group say that their biggest takeaway from the program was that we as women tend to underestimate our readiness for the next role. And ladies, I hope that means you're going to go for it, even when you feel a little underprepared. So hopefully what you walk away with is really challenging yourself to stepping up and going for it and asking for that next level role. And it looks like we're kind of evenly split between those of you who said your biggest takeaway was timing is everything, how to make the request, and also how to be judged by your potential and not your experience. So thanks everyone who participated in the poll. I'm going to hide that away now. So with that, I'm going to put out a last call for your questions or even just comments and feedback. How has this been for you so far today? Has it been useful? Has it been valuable? Maybe tell me about your aha moments or especially any questions that you have. And with that, I'm just going to share a little more information about myself. Of course, if you're on Twitter, feel free to tweet any insights during the program today or screen grabs or any questions that you might have. And I'm just going to log in and check my Twitter right now to see if anyone sent anything via that avenue. So feel free to stay in touch by following me at Jo_Miller, and also my company, Be Leaderly, is tweeting as well as blogging constantly. We're blogging 3 or 4 times a week with leadership articles and tips and advice, podcasts and videos. Everything that is there is really designed to help you lead and climb and thrive as a rising woman of influence in your organization. Okay, no tweets come through yet, so I'll back to the webinar control panel. And it doesn't look like we have any final questions coming in. But with that, I want to share a closing quote, truly one of my favorites. And this comes from a woman that I interviewed a few years ago, Claire Babineau-Fontenot, who is the Chief Tax Officer with Walmart, and truly a wonderful and outstanding leader, and just so quotable in so many of the things that she shared when I interviewed her in a webinar a few years ago. And she said, "There's nothing untoward about being honest about what you do well. Your company cannot fully appreciate how to leverage you as a resource if the company does not have visibility into what your unique talents are. So don't deny that of your company. Get out there. Make sure that people see you and make certain they know what you do well. And while you're doing that, make sure that you're lifting up some other people as you climb. So don't just climb the ladder. Don't be the type of leader that climbs the ladder, kicks the ladder away, and lets it land on someone. No one likes that type of leader, but rather be advocating for others, especially other women, and lifting other people up as you climb. So with that, I'm going to close out in just a moment. I just want to thank everyone for joining me today. I'll share a quick note from Juliana, who said, thanks for the material. And she said, all 6 secrets make sense. And sometimes we don't realize how our behavior and our hesitation can really make a difference to getting promoted. So, Juliana, I hope you've gotten over some of that hesitation. Dana, I wish you all the best of luck in your interview next week. And for everyone else that's joined, I hope it's been valuable, and I hope you'll stay in touch. If you're not already subscribed to my newsletter, please follow me on Twitter at Jo_Miller, and keep in touch by signing up for my newsletter at BeLeaderly.com. With that, everyone, thanks so much. It's been such a pleasure working with you today. Thanks for your comments, your input, with the feedback and the polls. I'm going to sign off and say goodbye now, but I'm going to give a high five to everyone who interacted and shared, and a fist bump with sparkles to everyone who's going to go for it and ask for that next level promotion. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and we'll stay in touch. Goodbye.